My name is Sydney Songer. I'm the holistic wellness practitioner and the gemstone education specialist with Gemisphere. And today I want to talk to you about rhodochrosite and its ability to help you cultivate a sense of inner freedom and also to break negative emotional patterns. The entire goal of rhodochrosite is to go in and essentially to neutralize any kind of negative emotional patterns that might be hindering your ability to grow and to achieve a state of health. Now, it's got three main purposes. This is to neutralize, to cleanse, and to rebuild. And what that means is essentially is that at first it goes in and it finds these more destructive emotional patterns and it neutralizes them. It cuts off the feed of energy that keeps repeating the pattern. It then goes in and helps to kind of cleanse the energy or the residual goo, if you will, that is left over from these patterns over a period of time. And then it helps to rebuild a healthier pattern to take its place so that you will start to notice these more healthy and improved positive reactions, not only in yourself, but what you're attracting into your life. So what's important to understand about the emotional body and these negative behavioral patterns is they begin to attract similar experiences. So if you're somebody who has sort of repeated events that happen in your life, if you have the same kind of like dead-end negative unhealthy relationships, if you're constantly experiencing accidents or the same kind of injuries or situations that are invoking a certain negative response, there's a good chance that it's a reaction to a negative pattern that you're holding. This is also something that's beneficial if you have issues with self-confidence, if you keep feeling like you're stuck in a rut, if you have a lot of like inner conflict that you're battling with. A negative behavioral pattern is essentially something that builds over time. This is not an instantaneous thing. This is something that has been repetitious and has essentially become habitual. So there is a cause, something initially happens, and an effect. You have a reaction to it. What essentially happens is that there is almost this chain that is created energetically within our system where the cause happens, the effect, which is our reaction, happens, and then it sort of begins to manifest a similar cause that matches the vibration, and then we react in a similar way. And the more this happens, the more something offers us the opportunity to continue to react in the same way, the more this pattern is established. And the longer we hold this pattern, the more intense it becomes. But over time, it essentially becomes almost magnetic. If you think about the law of attraction, what we think and what we feel, we attract into our life. And so this can show up in the form of repetitious things happening to us, repeated accidents, the same kind of relationships, the same kinds of experiences, because essentially this emotional pattern has a magnet on it that's saying, this is the frequency that we're familiar with, bring more of this in for us to deal with and for us to react to, which can be problematic. So we're gonna want to change that pattern and reestablish a healthier pattern that's gonna be conducive to the type of life that we're wanting to live. Now that we understand a little bit more about what a behavioral pattern is, it's important to note that not all behavioral patterns are bad. There are a lot of established patterns that we have that serve us. They're very healthy and they attract more healthy situations into our life for us to react to in a healthy way. So rhodochrosite isn't going to go in and get rid of the healthy patterns. It's only going to focus on the ones that are negative and that aren't necessarily serving us. They're going to have a disharmonious vibration within our system, and that's going to be the difference. That's the key and sort of what it's going to focus on and what will differentiate between a healthy pattern and an unhealthy pattern. So when we're working with rhodochrosite and it begins to shake up sort of the magnetism of these negative patterns that are drawing in similar situations for us, it's essentially flipping the magnetism. It's altering the poles so that it's going to start attracting the opposite of what that pattern is. And what this is doing is it's trying to provide us more and more opportunities to change the pattern and to enact a different reaction, a different emotional response. And the more we're able to do that, the more we are establishing a healthier, more positive pattern. So when we first start working with rhodochrosite, you may find over time that you become much more aware of your negative patterns. We don't always realize that we have them, or that we're reacting in a way that's more habitual or predictable even. Some people will notice, I seem to come across this issue in life a lot. Maybe it seems kind of like a pattern. Other people have no idea. And so if it's not in your awareness, it will come into your awareness and offer you the opportunity to start enacting change. And even if we have this awareness, it might not mean that we're immediately going to start reacting differently or feeling differently. It can take some time to establish itself in our system and to really kind of anchor in as our new way of being. And so it's important to kind of work with it and be patient with yourself. But you'll find over time that you will start to enact different behaviors and different reactions to things, and you will start feeling differently. Even if an old similar cause happens, your reaction will be different. You will be much more cognizant of your energy, your emotions, your feelings, your thoughts about what's happening, and you will elect to have a healthier reaction because it's going to feel better. It's going to naturally become the thing that you gravitate towards because it is more in your best interest, and it's following this new healthy pattern line that we've established by working with this frequency. Now, emotional patterns in the emotional field can sort of resemble almost like a puzzle with all these different puzzle pieces that stick together. And when there are a lot of negative behavioral patterns, everything doesn't quite match up. There's some disharmonious collection of energies that sort of get stuck in these more rigid areas where these negative behavioral patterns have established themselves. And what happens is that as we start collecting these more negative residual energies as a result of not having a healthy flow of reaction and experience in the way that we're feeling, it can begin to sort of mask more of our emotional strengths. The greater the negative patterns become, it's sort of like they're drowning out our ability to see, feel, or intuit the emotional strengths that we already have in our system, that we have available to us. And so when rhodochrosite comes into the system, it kind of shakes everything up. It's like dust has collected on everything, and it's covering the better parts of our emotional body, these tools that we have, this resilience that we have, that we sometimes forget was ever even there. And so rhodochrosite comes in, and once it breaks up this sort of incorrect puzzle to begin with, it's also going to kick up all the dust, all of that negative residual energy that's sort of collected over time. And then after it shakes off all the dust, it's going to put the puzzle back together in a way that actually makes sense, and that's going to be more positive and cohesive for you. But because of the fact that it has this sort of kick-up effect, it can be important to make sure that you're being really intentional about working with rhodochrosite in the sense of making sure you're grounded, making sure you're working to clear your system. So this can be something like working with sodalite or indigo in conjunction, or before and after, to kind of help clear some of those negative energies and help the process along so you don't feel quite so dusty while you're going through the process. But once we really kick that dust up, you're going to start noticing that there are emotional strengths available to you that you didn't realize were there, and you're going to start utilizing them, or at least you're going to have the option to utilize them. You still have to participate in this aspect of your well-being, just like with any other modality. And so being a willing participant, having the intention of wanting to create positive change within your emotional body, but then having self-awareness as you're going through the process and realizing, okay, some stuff is getting kicked up. What can I do to support my system, to support my energy, my field, my physical body as I'm going through this process, to ground, to clear, to nourish, making sure you're eating well, making sure that you're moving your body, journaling if you need to, speaking to a therapist if you need to, or a trusted friend, something to help kind of process all that negative goo that gets kicked up and get it out of your system so that you have the ability to intuit and become aware of all of this beautiful inner strength that is now available to you again, and that you have access to really sort of rebuild and be even better than before. Rhodochrosite can also have a tremendous influence over patterns that affect your physical health, as well as things that influence self-confidence, or also in helping to heal inner conflict. The way that we sit in emotion, when we have behavioral patterns that invoke a certain emotional reaction or a certain feeling, that essentially injects energy directly into our physical body. It's very specific. And if we are stuck in a negative pattern, it's going to be sending negative energy into our physical body, which can eventually start to manifest as physical symptoms over time. This is why sometimes we find that certain physical symptoms have an emotional attachment to them. And so if we can heal the emotional body, the physical symptoms will often resolve. Now, as a result of these consistent patterns coming up in our life, we can start to feel a bit defeated or start to have issues with our self-confidence because we sort of feel like we're a victim of fate, or we're not quite sure that we're ever going to be able to change out of the state that we've been in. And so when we start working with rhodochrosite and it's making these bigger changes in these patterns, what happens is we start to see that in fact we do have control over our emotions, our feelings, and our reactions. And this can be deeply empowering, especially as these patterns start to shift and we're seeing these changes, these behavioral changes within ourselves. It's an incredible self-esteem booster because we start to believe in our ability to have control and to really sort of direct our own emotional body and essentially the way we live our life and the way that we experience our life. When we have inner conflict with things, there are all these different aspects of being that we're always juggling. There is the mental, emotional, physical, karmic, spiritual aspects of what it is to be human. And so there's a lot of input that we're trying to filter all the time about how to integrate all of these things into our entire being, into all of these facets of what it is to be human, or a spiritual being in a human body. And when there's too much information and we can't sort through it fast enough and find ways to integrate it quickly, it develops conflict. It's that feeling of inner turmoil where we feel just sort of unsure of what to do with ourselves. We don't really know where all the pieces of the puzzle go. And so rhodochrosite comes in and helps to kind of resolve some of this by helping us create a more balanced emotional state. It brings in this sense of self-confidence. It starts to improve these patterns, and then we're able to essentially integrate all of this incoming information more effectively. And that sense of assuredness and clarity helps to resolve this sense of inner conflict. A couple notes about working with rhodochrosite and setting a mental intention as well as time guidelines. Because of the way rhodochrosite works, if we focus our intention on a specific area, it can kind of help to fine-tune the experience and where that frequency is kind of collectively increasing its influence. So if we feel like, for example, that our negative emotional patterns are really affecting our digestive system or our nervous system, then we can keep holding the mental intention that that is where we really want to hone in and start trying to enact change and create improvement. If we don't set an intention, the frequency is going to work much more holistically. It's going to look throughout the system and it's going to find the areas with the most impactful negative patterns. It's going to start there, and then it's going to kind of start to taper its way down to the least impactful, trying to kind of correct the entire system in the process. In terms of time guidelines, I always preach to people, please start slow. This is a very strong stone. It is incredibly impactful, but it can be a very intense experience. And so for a lot of people, especially if you've had a consultation with me, I'm going to recommend that you start with rhodonite and really try and sort of pave the way and stabilize your emotional body so that you have a strong foundation for when rhodochrosite comes in and really starts to shake things up. Beyond that, when you start wearing it, you want to start slowly, a few hours a day, slowly building up that amount of time, making sure that your system is comfortable with working with it. The initial phase can take anywhere from 2 to 6 months. And during that time, you really want to have it in your field about 24 hours a day, just so that it really has time to get into the system and integrate and start enacting some of those changes. So you can wear it during the day, but because of how the emotional body, the emotional field is, if you don't want to wear it at night, you can put it on your nightstand. As long as it's within 3 feet of your body, that's still going to be influencing your system. So that's still going to work. After that initial phase, you're going to start noticing that you feel much more emotional balance. your reactions, your thoughts, your feelings, the way you think about yourself, the way you view your health. You might even notice that some physical symptoms start to resolve because those emotional patterns that are kind of enacting them are being cleared. You're going to feel much more supported emotionally, and usually people will feel the sense that that initial phase has completed, and from there it's more maintenance. So you go from wearing it all day to you can wear it a few hours a day or as long as you would like. There's really no rule on how much you can wear it, but that initial phase is more important because we're really diving in and starting to create some major change. So after that, you can wear it in a supportive manner or whatever feels comfortable for you. It's really no coincidence that rhodonite and rhodochrosite have such similar names. Rhodonite is a stone that can really help facilitate the process and the kind of intense changes that rhodochrosite can stir up and begin to start within the system. And so a lot of times, especially if you've had a consultation with me, you know that I will often start people on sort of a regimen of rhodonite to sort of pave the foundation of the emotional body and prepare it for the deeper, more intense work that rhodochrosite can do. You can also wear rhodonite with rhodochrosite at the same time to kind of stabilize that intense change and kind of make the effects a little less intense. For some people, wearing rhodochrosite can be fine. It feels totally calm. They really vibe with it and it's comfortable for them. And then for other people, it can feel really intense and sometimes chaotic in the beginning as it's starting to enact these major shifts within your emotional field. And so bringing rhodonite in can really be a stabilizing force, and the synergy between the two of them is a really beautiful thing to work with. So now we've talked about all of the ways that rhodochrosite can come into the system and really help break up negative emotional patterns, help to rebuild some beautiful positive new ones, how it can affect your health, how it can improve your self-confidence, help you resolve inner conflict, help you establish a more positive set of reactions, and basically hold the magnetic state that's going to draw in much more positive and healthy situations and relationships and things to react to in your life. We've also talked about how to work with it, including with rhodonite, the timelines and mental intentions that you can hold while working with it. Also working with things like sodalite and indigo to help clear the field in the process. If you have any additional questions, please feel free. You can check the website. There's additional literature listed there. You can also call Gemisphere and speak with one of the gem advisors, or if you feel like you need a bit more guidance and direction in how to work with rhodochrosite, you can also call and schedule a private consultation with me, and I will be more than happy to talk with you about your unique situation and how rhodochrosite might be most appropriately used for you to achieve the results that you're looking for. Thank you so much for watching, and I really hope that rhodochrosite serves you and helps to enact some really positive change in your life. And stay tuned for more educational videos. Thank you. Be well.